Hey you! Yes, you, watching this video. Do you want to own a piece of Scribbler? Only not a lock of hair or blood or flesh or anything else that will get you in trouble with the law? Well, now you can, with t-shirts, hoodies, tote bags and mugs featuring Obab Scribbler at her Teespring store. You know you want to. I shall now stop talking in third person and send you on to the video. Be lovely to each other and enjoy the show.
When I'm with you, be my silhouette. Come and be my view.
A sound of hoof steps in the doorway caused the group of ponies to look up and see a tired-looking Nurse Redheart standing with Granny Smith at her side. The ancient mare was dabbing her eyes with the hem of her shawl and grinning from ear to ear. The white medical pony smiled at Applejack.
Cabbage Leaf was wondering if the Apple family would like to come in and meet their newest member.
The blonde earth pony drew herself up and caught her breath, tears welling in her eyes. Her voice trembled.
Why, yes, I surely would like to come inside right now, Nurse Redheart. I surely would.
With that, she traded some quick hugs with Twilight, Rarity and Rainbow Dash and hurried up the steps, pausing and giving Pinkie a hug as well, and then fell into step beside Granny Smith, helping the Apple family's matriarch make her way back inside. Apple Bloom came bounding excitedly down the stairs with a towel draped around her withers, a beaming, dishevelled Zecora in tow. The younger sister took up her position on the other side of her grandmother, and the three mares headed back down the hall toward their brother and sister-in-law's bedroom, while the white earth pony nurse and zebra herbalist leaned on one another in happy exhaustion. A short time later, the parlor was full of happy chatter from contented ponies. Pinkie and Twilight had ventured into the kitchen and brought out a selection of apple pies, apple tarts, apple cider, and fresh bread with apple butter, spreading the delicious home-cooked food on the rustic coffee table for the gathering of friends to enjoy, while Rarity served tea to Zecora and Nurse Redheart and made light conversation. Caramel had been moved to the love seat, where he dozed peacefully with his head propped up on his foreleg. As Rainbow Dash removed her jumpsuit to get more comfortable, the lumpy little paper-wrapped bundle she'd acquired at Madison Mare Gardens tumbled out. She chuckled to herself as she picked it up off the floor and began to unwrap it. Pinkie Pie smiled, managing a little bounce despite her exhaustion.
Oh, you bought a present? What is it? What is it?
The Pegasus grinned self-consciously.
Just a little thing. Check it out.
She set a little stuffed Pegasus pony figure on the coffee table, its tiny cyan blue snout and wings poking out of a yellow and blue bodysuit, a felt mane and tail printed with red, orange, yellow, green, blue and purple stripes. Dash glanced up at her friends with a wry smile and cocked ears.
Okay, so I know what you're thinking. There goes Rainbow floating her own cloud again. But it's not like that.
She rubbed the back of her head with a shrug.
Okay, it is a little like that. Can you believe they made a doll of me? Oh my gosh!
She reached out and gave her tiny duplicate a poke with her hoof, causing it to flop onto its side.
When I was a little fledgling, someone gave me a Firefly doll, back before I had even any idea what a Wonderbolt was. I carried that thing with me everywhere I went, and I mean everywhere. Even after she turned all gray, her mane and tail fell out, and Mom had to find a new button to replace one of her eyes. She was my buddy, and my good luck charm. I've still got her stashed in my steamer trunk while I tour.
The Pegasus mare reached out and righted it, casting a fond smile toward the hallway where the Apple family had retreated before meeting her friend's eyes again.
I figure if I'm really lucky, Fluttershy's foal will maybe do the same. Which will be great because then it'll be like we're hanging out all the time. Even though I'm out touring the world with the team.
She gave a shrug with a slight blush on her face.
I guess that's kinda silly.
Rarity gave her a warm smile.
Not at all, darling. I think it's a wonderful gift and a fine sentiment.
Pinkie Pie picked up the doll and made it hop along the table, her eyes furrowed in playful concentration.
You realize, of course, that I will not proceed to pester you until we have our own little Dashie.
She pointed the tiny figure at Rainbow Dash and made it mime as she spoke in a squeaky little imitation of her friend's voice.
That's right!
Twilight chuckled.
I might have to ask for an extra one for Spike. I hope you don't mind being teamed up with Thunder Pony.
Rarity was looking thoughtful as she chimed in.
Darlings, I think we could all follow Rainbow Dash's example here, and I think I have a good idea of how we might do it.
Pinkie set the doll gently down and grinned.
You know, we never did have a full shower for Fluttershy.
The pink mare lapsed into such a perfect imitation of her yellow Pegasus friend that they could have been considered the same mare.
She was always, "Oh no, don't bother. No need to make a fuss over me. And that's okay."
She gave another little hop and reverted to her normal cheery tone.
But now, I thought we could talk her into it, 'cause it won't be a party for her as much as a party for a foal.
Before any pony could respond, they heard hoof steps in the hallway. All heads turned at the sound of Applejack's gentle voice.
Speaking of which, how'd y'all like to come and see my new niece?
With a broad grin, Rainbow Dash was instantly on her hooves. Rarity and Twilight stood, giving polite nods to Sakura and Nurse Redheart as the two mares beamed up at them over their teacups. Pinkie glanced at the slumbering Caramel and kissed him on the cheek. He stirred gently and muttered, "Puppy nuggets," under his breath. She smiled warmly down at him before giving a little hop and following her friends. Applejack led them quietly into the stillness of the rustic farmhouse bedroom, the warm light of the lamps turning the air to soft gold. In one corner, Apple Bloom and Granny Smith sat on a soft throw rug, leaned against one another, sharing a joyous moment as grandmother and granddaughter. The stocky figure of Cabbage Leaf busied herself folding towels and repacking her saddlebags, a wide grin on her face. On the large, soft bed, in the center of the room, they saw Fluttershy, nestled against Big Macintosh with a quilt laid over her back and wings, both ponies looking thoroughly exhausted, with their legs tucked under them. The butter-colored Pegasus's coat was rough and matted with sweat, and her long pink mane was frayed and hanging limply on either side of her face. But despite that, she seemed to almost glow with an inner light. Her bearing was as graceful as a deer from the deep glens of Whitetail Woods. Her eyes were closed as she dozed peacefully. Her husband's orange mane was frazzled as well, with sweat on his brow and a different sort of moisture glistening on his freckled cheeks. His gaze was locked on a tiny, rounded shape curled up against his massive chest atop his tree-trunk-thick, muscular forelegs. The little bundle was the color and texture of a rosy peach, with a pair of impossibly delicate, downy wings folded against the curve of her back. These stretched out and refolded themselves as the foal squirmed in her father's lap and rolled over with a yawn, followed by the tiny whisper of a sigh, revealing a sweetly sleeping face with even rosier cheeks and a wisp of silky pink mane falling across the filly's untroubled forehead. At this feather-light stirring, Big Macintosh's lower lip and chin started to tremble. A look of such profound love etched upon his normally impassive features that it was clear for all to see that not even the princesses who moved Equestria's very sun and moon could ever hope to dislodge his tiny daughter from her seat on the throne of the giant earth pony's heart. Pinkie Pie drew in a huge gasp of breath, causing the others to glance sharply over at her, expecting some sort of raucous outburst. But instead, the pink mare gave a small hop and let out a soft little "Yay!" At her side, Rainbow Dash was intoning a very faint chant of,
Oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh.
Her sandy voice cracking slightly as tears came to her eyes. Twilight Sparkle was at a loss for words, and was uncertain that she would ever be able to express what she was feeling in that moment in one of her letters to the princess, even if she had the rest of her life to compose it. Applejack spoke up with a voice thick with emotion.
Ain't that just a sight? I'm so proud I'm fit to burst right now.
Rarity's voice came hushed and trembling.
Oh, she's ever so beautiful.
Big Macintosh nodded haltingly, his own deep voice faltering as he forced his reply over the stumbling blocks of his own emotions.
Yup.
At the sound of her husband's voice, Fluttershy stirred and opened her eyes, which sparkled like emeralds in the dim light. She craned her neck and planted a tender kiss on her massive stallion's cheek. She turned and looked up at her dearest friends with a smile, her mellow voice soft but clear in the stillness.
Girls, I'd like you to meet my new daughter, Windfall Apple.
She inclined her head and nuzzled the little filly's cheek, prompting another tiny sigh.
Windfall, I'd like to introduce you to your Aunt Rainbow, your Aunt Rarity, your Aunt Pinkie, and your Aunt Twilight.
She raised her shining eyes to meet her friends' gazes.
I know that's a lot of names to remember, but don't worry, you'll learn them all. I've got a lot of stories to tell you about them.
They visited for only a short while, whispering heartfelt congratulations and blessings on the infant foal, before Cabbage Leaf and Granny Smith shooed everyone out so the little family could take their rest. Windfall was wrapped in a soft blanket and laid in a beautiful crib that the younger apple sister had constructed out of the family's namesake wood, the fragrant planks sanded to such smoothness that they felt like silk to the hoof. Apple Bloom beamed with pride to see her niece settle in with another precious sigh, as Applejack smiled and ruffled her little sister's mane. Big Macintosh and Fluttershy climbed back onto the bed together after the lights in the room were lowered, sharing a kiss as Granny Smith gently closed the door. The aged matriarch of the Apple clan said her thanks to Cabbage Leaf and slipped her a bag of bits, which the stocky Earth Pony in turn cheerfully split between herself, Nurse Redheart, and Zecora. Their business concluded, the midwife, herbalist, and nurse headed out into the misty dark of the early morning, the three parting with a hug and mutual well wishes. Her eyelids drooping with weariness, the old grey mare extended the hospitality of Sweet Apple Acres to anyone who wanted to spend the night, then let Apple Bloom help her up to bed. This left the 5 old friends quietly chatting in the parlor, each of them thoroughly worn out, but savouring the stillness and camaraderie too much to want to let it end. Rarity shared the idea that had been forming in her mind after Rainbow Dash had shown them her gift for Windfall, and the mares quietly drew their plans for the next day. It was bright and sunny the following afternoon as Twilight Sparkle, Spike, Pinkie Pie, Rarity, and Sweetie Belle came walking up the path to Sweet Apple Acres, happily chatting and enjoying one another's company after a delicious lunch at a new place in town called the Trotton Inn. The 3 older mares each carried a small, brightly coloured gift bag on their back. Spike, now much too big to ride on Twilight, walked on all 4s alongside her, the waving of his tail and flaring of his stubby wings revealing his excellent mood. As they drew close to the acres, he sniffed the air and licked his lips.
Smell those apples. It's been too long since I've gotten to taste some good old Sweet Apple Acres apples.
Twilight cocked an eyebrow down at him.
Spike, we ate not 10 minutes ago.
He looked back at her quizzically.
And your point?
Pinkie giggled as she poinged along beside them.
It's on her head, silly!
Twilight chuckled and rolled her eyes.
Pinkie.
The 4 mares and attendant dragon arrived to find the farm bustling with activity. A trio of Earth Pony farmhands paused to tip their straw hats in friendly greeting before hefting their shovels and getting back to work, filling in the crater left behind by Twilight's teleportation spell. As they approached the porch, they saw Apple Bloom passing up a bulging sack of pink envelopes stamped with apple-based cutie marks to a hovering grey Pegasus mare, whose eyes became a little more crossed as she hefted its weight into the air and fluttered erratically away over the trees. When the younger apple sister caught sight of them, she gave a little hop and galloped inside. Moments later, she emerged with Scootaloo in tow, the slender orange mare following with kicked-up heels and flaring wings. Sweetie Belle let out a happy shout like a chime and bounded forward to greet them. The three young friends circled one another, trading hugs and enthusiastic greetings, before as one throwing back their heads and hollering,
Crusaders! Yay!
With that, they thundered inside, slamming the screen door behind them. Applejack's stern admonishment could be heard in reply from the depths of the kitchen.
Consarn it, keep it down, you silly fillies. Big Macintosh is trying to sleep, you know.
On a little puff of white cloud, high over the rolling hills of the apple farm, Rainbow Dash was stirred from a light doze by the distant cacophony. She craned her neck over the edge and smiled as she saw her friends standing in the courtyard far below. The cyan Pegasus took a mass of the cloud in her forelegs and buried her face in it, inhaling deeply and enjoying the familiar scent of the clouds over Ponyville for a little longer. Then she stood and stretched. She bunched up her athletic body and launched into the air, dispersing the cloud with her kickoff, and traced a lazy spiral down to the farm below. Dash let out a chuckle as she touched down beside them.
Jeez, those kids are louder than the crowd at the Hippodrome. Hey guys!
She reached up to give Spike a playful noogie.
Whoa, you're getting big, Spike.
The little dragon laughingly batted her hoof away and gave her a hug before they fell into step with the rest of the group. They made their way up onto the porch, where Spike rose to a standing position and knocked on the screen door with a clawed hand. Applejack came ambling out wearing a gingham apron and a wide grin.
Howdy, gals. Come on in and sit a spell. I just put some apple cobbler in the bike.
The blonde farm pony beckoned her guests into the parlor, which was currently aflutter with birds and crawling with little forest animals, including a veritable carpet of rabbits, many of which clustered around an ottoman where their stern patriarch Angel sat alongside his mate Cupid, holding court among the critters like a pair of long-eared fuzzy monarchs. Granny Smith sat in the same rocking chair as she had the night before, still knitting away at another booty, while bunnies and chipmunks dodged the rockers. Fluttershy lay serenely on the couch, looking all the more radiant for having gotten a little sleep and a good brushing, with little Windfall tucked into the crook of a foreleg. The three teenage mares were hovering over the tiny Pegasus, cooing and awing as the peach-coloured foal stared up at them with wide, grass-green eyes. At a nod from Twilight, Spike walked over and peered over the back of the couch, instantly drawing the little filly's rapt attention. The lavender unicorn chuckled.
You weren't that much bigger when I hatched you, you know.
Fluttershy smiled up at him and leaned in, speaking softly in her daughter's ear.
Who is that? Is that your Uncle Spike?
Windfall just stared, fascinated, while her mother gave the young dragon a cheerful grin.
Hi, Spike. It's good to see you, and it looks like Wendy thinks so too.
She gave him a wink.
You've grown into such a handsome young dragon.
As Spike tried to conceal his blush, the butter-coloured mare turned her attention to her other friends as they gathered around the couch.
Hello again, girls. I hope you all got some sleep last night.
Twilight returned the Pegasus's fond gaze.
Well, you know what a night owl I am. How about you, Fluttershy?
The new mother let out a soft sigh.
Oh, I got a little. Wendy here had me feed her a few times. Big Bunny and the girls have been taking shifts with her to let me get a little rest here and there when she's not hungry. He's passed out in the bedroom right now. I was going to lay her down for a nap in a few minutes.
At this, Pinkie Pie gave a little hop.
Oh, then what are we waiting for? We brought presents!
The Pegasus mother smiled down at her filly.
You hear that, Wendy? Your aunties brought you something.
She looked up at her friends.
That's wonderful. You didn't have to.
Applejack nodded at the fashion designer unicorn. The alabaster mare preened, but tipped her horn toward the rainbow-maned stunt flyer.
Rainbow Dash provided the inspiration.
Dash grinned and shrugged.
Yeah. Well, let's stop congratulating each other and get on with it. How about you go first, Rarity?
The unicorn gave a genteel nod and levitated her gift bag off her back, opening it with her magic. A small white satin unicorn doll with purple ribbons for a mane, sapphires for eyes, and 3 tiny aquamarines for a cutie mark on each flank floated out and drifted to the couch, where it landed on the cushion in front of Mother and Philly's fascinated gazes. Fluttershy gasped.
Oh, Rarity, that's so precious.
Rarity smiled at the compliment.
Thank you, darling. If I'd had a little more time, I would have made a few dresses.
Who's next? Who's next?
Pinkie Pie started bouncing. Rainbow Dash nudged her with a hoof.
How about you, Pinkie? You look like you were about to explode a couple times.
A wide grin spread across the pink mare's face.
Okie dokie dokie.
She plucked her bag off of her back and set it on the floor, fishing around inside until she came out with another pony figurine, this one crafted out of pink marzipan, with curly pink frosting hair and a goofy expression, with crossed eyes and little sugary tongue sticking out of its mouth. Fluttershy let out a giggle as she examined it.
Oh, Pinkie, that's so cute.
The pink mare's grin widened.
Thanks! Oh, and just so you know, if she eats this one, I'll be happy to make her another one anytime.
She turned to the rainbow-maned Pegasus.
You go next, Dashy. I can tell you're stalling for some reason.
Caught off guard, Rainbow dithered a moment, then gave a shrug and acquiesced.
Okay. Well, this isn't a hoof-made, one-of-a-kind original like the others. But I hope you and Windy like it anyway.
She reached under her wing and produced the Wonderbolt souvenir doll that bore her likeness and set it down in front of Fluttershy and Windfall. Fluttershy's eyes widened.
Goodness! Oh, Rainbow Dash, that's so cool!
Pinkie cocked her head and looked at the cyan Pegasus as Rainbow dug her hoof in the floor.
What are you talking about, Dashy? Of course she made your gift. You worked harder on yours than any of us did.
The Pegasus looked dubious.
How do you figure that, Pinkie?
The bubbly earth pony started to hop in place.
Well, you had to become a Wonderbolt, and then a big enough star that a toy company would want to make a doll that looked like you.
Twilight broke her observant silence to chime in.
And how many other dolls can you say went through a sonic rainboom with the one and only Rainbow Dash? I'd say that makes it one of a kind.
Dash blushed and rubbed the back of her multicolored mane.
Aw, jeez, guys.
Applejack stepped forward and set down a little basket.
And anyway, you're not the only one who had a little help with her gift. If you don't mind, why, I'd like to give her mine next.
The lavender unicorn nodded her assent, and the blonde earth pony lifted out a wooden figurine of an earth pony with knotted yellow yarn for hair and a coat of orange paint, with 3 red apples on each flank as a cutie mark. Fluttershy smiled up at her as she set it down in line with the others.
Applejack, I love it.
The farm mare bobbed her head at her younger sister.
Heck, I just painted it. Apple Bloom carved it, and Granny Smith helped me with the tail of mine.
Apple Bloom chimed in.
It was gonna be Holly Hobby Horse, but I think this is way better.
At this, Rarity spoke up.
Applejack, darling, this suits you to a T. The wood came from the land you tend, and the apple family pitched in to make it so wonderful.
She gazed at the little pony figurine with a critical eye.
There's only one thing missing.
With that, she levitated a tiny cow pony hat out of her bag and deftly placed it on the figurine's head. Applejack squinted at the doll's headgear, then cocked an eyebrow at the fashionable alabaster mare.
Are those rhinestones on the brim there?
Rarity raised a hoof to her mouth with a smug chuckle.
Just making it 20% cooler, my dear.
The others laughed as the farm pony rolled her eyes. Pinkie turned to the other unicorn.
Okay, Twilight, you're up.
Twilight gave a cryptic grin and levitated her bag to the floor in front of her. She was met with looks of confusion as a book floated up out of the bag and laid itself down on the couch cushion behind the row of pony figurines. Fluttershy craned her neck forward to read the title, her brow furrowed in puzzlement.
The Friendship Letters, a correspondence with the Princess by Twilight Sparkle. Oh, it's your book. That's nice.
Applejack pursed her lips.
Twi, you know we all got copies of your book already.
Pinkie giggled.
And Wendy's too little to read that, silly.
Rainbow Dash cocked an eyebrow.
I don't get it, Twilight.
Rarity huffed.
Indeed, this isn't what we agreed on, darling.
Twilight held up a hoof.
I wasn't finished. Just watch.
Before the mystified eyes of the other ponies, the book started to shake, and then with a sudden pop, it transformed into a lavender unicorn figurine with a silky dark violet mane streaked with purple and pink. The full-sized version looked up at them with a satisfied grin.
And magic makes it all complete.
The wind rustled the acres of apple trees outside and fluttered the blinds of the bedroom window as the muffled sound of happy chatter and laughter could be heard through the walls. Little Windfall Apple, the first of many beloved falls, lay asleep, the soft blankets rising and falling almost imperceptibly with the rhythm of her breathing. The pale yellow face of her mother, her warm aquamarine eyes radiating love between the silky pink locks of her mane, gazed down on the tiny Pegasus like Celestia's sun and Luna's moon on Equestria. She reached up and nudged the mobile hanging over the applewood crib, causing the 5 gently swaying little ponies to prance their lazy circle. No matter where her friends were, across the whole wide world, they would always be there in spirit, watching over her children with her.
Together forever, never to part. Yes, never to sever, joining heart to heart, to become as one, till Earth's life has run, forever together, till life's setting sun. Two hearts entwined, two bodies, one mind, two souls are joined.